Welcome to Dare a New Belief, a place to discover what is possible for your life after the loss of a loved one, and where you will find inspiration, insight, support, and love, and hopefully a bit of laughter to help you through your day. Now, here's your host, Nada Hogan.
Welcome to Dare a New Belief, where you will find light and life, love and joy, healing, faith, and hope. A place where you get to believe in what is possible for your life. And today I have the great honor to have Terese Castellanos with me for today's call. Terese holds a master's degree in social work from Loyola University in Chicago. She has 20 years experience working with adults, adolescents, couples, and families. She specializes in anxiety, depression, trauma, grief, and loss, relationship issues, and major life transitions. Terese believes that through therapy, unresolved issues can be addressed so as to gain freedom from shame, guilt, anxiety, and depression, and work toward healthier ways of living that allow for a more meaningful and authentic life. Terese has a private practice and also works as an addictions therapist, critical incident response consultant, and mental health consultant. She is also a certified Reiki practitioner. And Terese, I am so grateful for your courage and your time to be with us today, because I know you are going through a very difficult time. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me and for giving me an opportunity to share my story. I hope that, even though it's my story, I know that it's many other people's story as well.
Exactly. Yes. So Terese, you had shared with me that today your mother is coming to live with you, and she is transitioning into hospice care.
That's correct.
Yeah. So can you tell us, just so for other people who have been in the same position as you, just how are you navigating that? Because all of this is happening right now, and here you're on a call with me. And how is it that you can find the strength to be able to do that and navigate this?
Oh, that's a really good question. I've been asking myself that same question. I guess, part of it is resiliency. I didn't become a therapist because I grew up with the rainbows and sunshine and a white picket fence. And so I have had opportunities to build resiliency over my lifetime. But I think part of why I am able to do this with my mom is that I lost my husband 10 years ago to brain cancer, and I was his caretaker. We were together 18 years, and 11 of those years were with cancer. Mm-hmm. And so I think that definitely helps me now in being the caretaker for my mom.
Absolutely. So, and it's always, to me, just amazing how life seems to help us and prepare us for other times in our life that can be as difficult and maybe even more difficult. So as you said, you became a therapist because you didn't have the white picket fence and rainbows and all of that. Can you share with us that the difficult, your childhood and growing up? Can you share that with us?
Sure. Well, the program is not long enough. But I will share the part of my story that is relevant to my mom, and it's relevant in what I want to talk about today. So, I'm one of 5 children. Well, one of 6. I lost a brother before I was born. He died as a toddler of pneumonia. And, I guess that's kind of where part of my mom's story began, because my mom's, just like all of us, we have our own childhoods and the way that we were brought up, and all of those things affect how we then parent. But my mother, I can't imagine. My mother's first major loss was her third child, my brother, who died in her arms in the emergency room because they said she had to wait her turn. And he was 1.5 years old. And you can imagine the desperation of her pleading for someone to help her because my brother had already gone, limp in her arms, and he had pneumonia, and she was told that she had other people before her. And he passed away in her arms in the hospital emergency room.
Oh my gosh.
And this was right before he was the brother before me, and I was born 2 years after that. So the other major loss that my family, but again, as a mother, is that I lost my brother, who also had a brain tumor, like my husband. About 3 to 4 years ago, he had a brain tumor, and he had some brain damage as a result of the surgery. And he was only in his 50s, and he had symptoms very much like Alzheimer's, where he lost his memory because of where the tumor was in his brain. And he got up to try to cook in the middle of the night, and he unfortunately started a fire, and he perished in the fire as well. My niece and my nephews were able to get out of the house, but my nephew could not save my brother, and he perished, and that was another tremendous loss for my mom. So again, we all have a story, and my mom has hers, but how it impacted me and my relationship with my mom is that, being the only, her first daughter, I have a younger brother and sister, my mom really wanted a girl. And when she had me, she was very protective of me. And unfortunately, given the job that she was doing, where she was working in a factory and the hours were, at night, and my father worked in a steel mill, and his hours were, very, similar. I have 2 older brothers, and but they don't drive. Neither one of them ever got their license, and it was too difficult to be on the bus with me at 1 a.m. That is not a safe and conducive thing to do with a baby. And so my mom made the decision to leave me with my grandmother, who had me since I was a baby until the age of 15. My grandmother in my heart was my mom. My mom was more like an aunt, that I would see on the weekends with my dad. They divorced eventually. My mom came to live with my grandparents, but I was already older. And I didn't understand as a child why I wouldn't live with my parents and my 2 older brothers. As a child, I understand this as a therapist, that, children think that they make things happen. And so as a child, I remember feeling very lonely, very unloved, and just very confused, kind of wondered what about me was not good enough that I could live with my family. Although my grandmother provided me with so much love and just tremendous amount of love and self-esteem and nurturing, that I'm just very lucky that I had my grandmother. When I was 15, the only reason I stopped living with my grandmother is our house burned, and I had to then live with my mom, and there began a very difficult relationship with my mom.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. My heart just goes out to you. So you had this difficult relationship with your mother and trying to understand, and as small child, now as a teenager, but I would imagine that there's some kind of resentment, or that questioning becomes more than just questioning, and all of the feelings that come with, like, why am I left out, and what did I do wrong, and why did I have to stay with my grandparents, even though I know you loved your grandmother so much. How did that relationship, when it was just you and your mother, then how did that relationship blossom? I mean, was there healing that was starting to take place in there, or did it just get more difficult?
It got more difficult. I mean, imagine a 15-year-old who, living with my grandparents. My grandfather in particular was really stern. He was very difficult. I mean, in terms of, like, he was really strict. He didn't believe that girls should interact with boys, and so he had a very different idea of me as a child, and just thought I was, rebellious, when I was just a typical normal little girl. So when I lived with my mom, imagine the immense sadness and longing I had to be with my grandmother, who ended up living with my aunt. It was, again, and this is all kind of as an adult looking back, but I longed to be with my grandmother, who was my mom in my heart. And so being angry, not being able to express that as a 15-year-old, not being able to say, that I wanted to be with her and not with my mom, because, you're supposed to want to be with your mom. But also having these new rules, or, pseudo rules that my mom wanted to place on me. Oftentimes I would say to her, "Oh, now you want to be my mom?
Right.
Now you want to be my mom? Where were you for the first 15 years? And so definitely I would say things like that to her. I would say, "No, you can't tell me what to do. Only grandma has that right. Grandma can tell me what to do."
Yeah.
And so, to get at an age where I can know at least what I'm feeling and express it in a way that I had never been able to as a child. And so, I think it hurt my mom a little bit, but at the same time, my mom loved my grandmother, and she never resented the fact that I had that relationship with my grandmother. And for that, I'm grateful that my mom never felt like she was competing with my grandmother, that she understood how much I loved her, and she was very grateful for that. And that has come around full circle, which, I will talk about with you.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I mean, it's just, you just don't even know the pain that people go through when you just look at a person. You just have no idea the stories and the pain that they carry with them. Oh my goodness. Because as a little kid and loving your grandmother, but wanting to be with your mom. And then when you're 15, you're with your mom and loving your mom, but still having those feelings, but wanting to be with your grandmother. I mean, it's just, oh my gosh. I mean, it's wow. Wow. Oh, so now your mother is, so you became a therapist because of, I don't want to say a tough life, but you had a lot to deal with. I just can't even imagine. You had a lot, and it grew you in so many ways. And now you're with your mother, who's come to live with you today, and with Alzheimer's, or dementia.
Right.
And so, like, how are you navigating this now, Terese? How is this landing?
I've had many clients who have come to see me for very similar reasons. Their, stories might be something like, my dad used to abuse me as a child, and now I'm expected to take care of him because he, has dementia, and I'm still so angry. Those kinds of things. It's very common in terms of, the clients that I have seen. So I've kind of always wondered what I would do in that situation. And it was a very different situation. And so I can't say that my parents were abusive toward me. So, but there's still pain there. And, that turned into resentment. Nada, that turned into resentment where it wasn't just the teenager saying it. It was the adult saying to my mom, Mom, I'm a mom now. And I cannot imagine ever giving my child to you to raise. Like, there's nothing that would cause me to not want to be with my child. And she would say, things like, oh, do we have to talk about that? Or, things like that. And so I never had an opportunity to just have an adult conversation with my mom about it. Mm-hmm. And I recognized that, we were both in pain. And it felt very invalidating to not have an opportunity to say to my mom or to hear her say, it was hard. That wasn't an easy decision. Because, Nada, I didn't even realize, the part that I forgot to say is I didn't even realize that I lived with my grandmother since I was a baby. I thought that I had moved in with my grandmother when my parents got divorced. And it was only a conversation not that long ago that my aunt had with me. And she said, oh, I remember where your crib used to be. And I said, wait, what do you mean my crib? And she said, yeah, you lived with grandma since you were like a baby. And I had no idea. And that really, really hurt me because I thought, I know what it feels like to be a mom. And how could she have parted with me? However, Nada, what has happened now is, with her having dementia, and even before, she's frail, she's getting older. She has a very strong personality. So it's never just been about, that choice and that decision she had to make. But it's also, she has a really strong personality. So she'll say, I want this. So, you want to please mom, and I get her this. And she said, no, I don't want that. I want this. And so I just always felt like I was never enough, or whatever I did was never enough to make her happy. Yeah. And I'm, and again, triggering those old feelings as a child of I'm not good enough to be with my family, right? Which happens. Right. So that has caused this really strained relationship between my mom and I. But now that she's getting older, and I see how fragile she is, and when she got dementia, which came really quickly over just the last few months, I've been able to have empathy and compassion for her in a way that I have not been able to before. And so what it has allowed me to do is to work on forgiving her. Mm. And what has made me sad, Nada, and I was explaining to a friend that I wish I had had the courage to forgive her while she still understood. So that we can have a conversation about it. Wow. But my friend, who is someone that he's just he's my spiritual brother, as I call him, and he said something very beautiful. And he said to me, your mom's mind can't understand you, but you're talking spirit to spirit. Yeah. And her spirit will. And that is going to help her spirit heal. And it will help you too. Yeah. And he couldn't have been more right, because it was only maybe 4 weeks ago before she got really sick. She was still able to talk. She would forget some things, but then she'd come back. And I found the moment when she came back, and I said, Mom, I just want you to know that I forgive you. And she said, you forgive me? Forgive me for what? And I said, for everything, Mom, for being imperfect, just like I am imperfect. And I just want you to know that you did your best, and that as a parent, you had the best intentions. And I said, and I can't remember how she kind of, she went out and then she came back in, and she looked at me and she said, are you talking about when you were little? And I said, yeah, Mom. And I said, when you left me with Grandma, and she was coloring because she loves to color these days. And she looked at me and she said, that was really hard for me.
Oh.
And I said, I know that, Mom. And I said, and I know, and I just want you to know that was the best thing you could have done for me. Thank you. Because Grandma was really good to me.
Yeah.
And there was healing in that, Nita, for both of us.
Yeah. Oh my God. It just breaks my heart and it fills me with joy at the same time. The struggles and the pain, and then to have this moment to be able to tell your mom that you forgive her and that she's able to share with you that it was so hard for her too. And I love what your friend says, because I believe that's so much to be true, that
Yes.
her mind doesn't hear it, but her spirit does, her heart does.
Yes.
And it's all love. It's all love. And when we can be in that place, how it allows your mother to be in a different place while she is transitioning, and while you're transitioning as a human into a new phase of your life and a new evolution of your own becomingness because of this time that is happening with your mom, and that you have your mom with you. And there's just such, I believe, just such divine love and guidance and strength and all of that.
Absolutely, Nita. Absolutely.
Oh, man. Oh, Terese, there's so many things that I want to ask you, and we're going to run out of time. So
Okay.
are you comfortable if we can just wrap this one up today and then come back and continue this conversation for next week? Would you be willing to do that with me?
I would love to.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, because I have so many things that I want to ask you. And I know that you just have such a powerful story, and on so many levels. It's just not this or that or that. It's all of these stairs of all of these things that have made you the beautiful human being that you are, and
Thank you.
how you can help other people. Being a therapist, absolutely, for sure. But being able to help other people, just to hear that, oh my gosh, look at what she has gone through. And if she can do that, then it gives me permission to be able to start healing myself, or maybe forgive my parent also, and allow that opportunity, and maybe be able to, I believe you had said, to have the courage to forgive her while she understood it better. And maybe somebody else is able to do that just because you're here sharing this story, and how powerful that is.
And Nita, let me just add one thing.
Yeah.
I've also, in this process, have had to forgive myself.
Yeah.
And that is usually harder for people to do. We're usually more empathic and compassionate toward others than we are toward ourselves.
Absolutely.
And so I would love the opportunity to share that as well.
Yeah. So when we come back, let's start off with how it is that you had to forgive yourself, and how this opportunity allowed that, or how this became an opportunity to allow you to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
I would love that. Oh, Terese, thank you so very much. And all of Teresa's information will be in the show notes. She is located in Chicago. And I guess I didn't even ask you if you're still working. Are you taking new clients right now, Terese, or no?
I am not. I will be relocating to Portland, hopefully in the next few months. And so I will be reestablishing myself there.
Okay. Okay. All right. So awesome. So your contact information will be in the show notes. So anybody who needs to reach out to you while you're in beautiful Portland, that'll be fabulous.
Yes, definitely. And while I'm still here in Chicago, I'm doing some virtual work, so that would be fine too.
Okay. All right. So I'll have that information posted on the show notes. So Terese, thank you so much. And then we're gonna come back next week and continue this conversation. And for the listeners, I know that you are pulling out. Oh my God, just healing. There's just so much healing that takes place in this conversation. And so please be sure to join us next week for part 2, so you get to hear how Terese is able to forgive herself and the work that's taking place with that. So as always, much love to you and have a beautiful week. And we'll see you back here next week. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you for spending time with us today. Please go to nadahogan.com for show notes and other information you can use right away. If you like what you heard here, please subscribe to our show and don't forget to rate and review right there on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you get your shows. And don't forget to tell your friends about it. We'll see you next week.